Viewers, today latest update from Ethiopia, Tigray and Oromo. Viewers, the Oromo Liberation Army have made a significant gains in the Oromia region, large areas of Oromia now controlled by the Oromo Liberation Army, to include the main highway running from Kenya up to Addis Ababa. The actual border crossing is not under the control of the Oromo Liberation Army, but further north the main highway that leads up to Addis Ababa, also known as by the Oromo people, is under the control of the Oromo Liberation Army. So what has led to this? What has led to the Oromo Liberation Army having the ability to control large swath of the farmer state of Ethiopia, especially large areas of the Oromia region? Well, the answer that is relatively simple. The war that took place in which we saw the temporary occupation of the Tigray region, and then we observed the eviction of those forces of the loyalist formation from the Tigray region, and then the invasion by the Tigray defense forces into Amhara region, seizing large of the Amhara region including several major towns and cities. But at the same time, the loyalist formation, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, took incredibly large casualties, not just in main power, in terms of the degrading that strength of fighting units, and quite frankly at times completely destroying fighting units of the ANDF. But leadership also took a hit as well, and we have seen repeatedly that numerous company, battalion, even brigade commanders were either taken prisoner and still remain prisoner, or were seriously wounded in the battles that took place in the Hara region. And a lot is not being talked about of just the state of that ENDF is currently right now post highly intensity warfare in the Tigray region, and obviously the fighting that took place in the Amhara region. The casualties again we were incredibly immense. Some figures as high as 100,000 of Ethiopian National Defense Forces and militia forces were either killed or wounded in the enduring war that took place both in the Tigray region and the Amhara region as well. And right up to the start of the conflict, if you look at the total manpower of the ANDF, you are probably looking at a force of around 160,000 personnel. Quite possibly is that the 150 to 160 range, not to exceed 200. It eventually started to recruit and again some more strength, but the losses that the ENDF took in the conflict, especially in the Tigray region, once they started to retreat from the Tigray region, and then the battles that took place as the Tigray Defense Force continued to drive south into the Amhara region, and then finally when the Tigray Defense Force were in control of areas just north of Dessie and Kambolcha, we saw that attempt offensive by the Tigray ANDF, which then resulted in just incredibly high losses by the ANDF, and then we saw the counter-offensive by the Tigray Defense Force again, which encircled large forces of the ENDF, be loyalist, and destroyed a lot of these forces. And eventually, as we know, the Tigray Defense Force took control of Dessie, Kambolcha, and moved all the way towards Shivarobit and Debre Birhan at one point. So again, just losses which have been allowed the Oromo Liberation Army to make these great advances that we are seeing right now. Even today we have heard report that there had been talk that the Tigray ENDF was quite possibly looking at making new operation against the TDF. That is just a complete force at this point. The ENDF loyalist formation are simply in no state of affairs to be launching or an offensive against the Tigray Defense Force at this moment. They are barely able to hold on against the Oromo Liberation Army at this point, and you know at a lot of that not being reported or talked about, but the situation is incredibly dire right now for the loyalist formation, especially in the western Oromia region. There are a lot of these areas where the ENDF and the federal police cannot even simply travel. They just don't have the force, contrast and the type of forces and a series of forces that are needed to operate in some of these areas, given the state of affairs that the ENDF is currently in terms of just being just utterly decimated in some of these other engagements with the Tigray Defense Forces. So, this is the latest update about it. For more latest report, please subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching.